take you on a tour of the garden. I've done a couple of cooking videos so far, but I really wanted to do the garden thing. We've played at having a big garden and doing the urban homestead thing for the last 4 years since we moved in, because I've always had plants on like a bazillion different pots and things on our porch at the apartment and things. And my parents are big gardeners, but we really wanted to do more gardening here, and I wanted to grow a lot of what we were eating. So with everything going on this year in particular, we're trying really hard to do that. So I'm going to take you on a garden tour. I worked for like 2 hours this morning and got a whole bunch of stuff in. I had a whole tray of seedlings that needed to go in. I've got a tray. Take you on a tour of the garden. We're converting the front yard. We have 2 flower beds in the front on either side of the sidewalk that leads to the house, and one side is contained and has always done better, and the other side we cannot get anything to grow. And I bought drought resistant plants last year when they were on sale, and they've done okay, but the only thing that really grows is like the weeds. So I've decided we're just going to let that whole side of the yard just go to grass, so it's easier to take care of and it looks better than it does right now when it's full of weeds. But that's kind of an ongoing project. We have several of those. At some point we need to replace some of the boards in this deck, but we'd really like to replace it with Trex. We'll see if that's in the budget or not, because then we wouldn't have to worry about replacing the whole deck again, but that's expensive. So let's take you on the garden tour, and you guys will have to tell me if you like the garden tours or not. This is the tray of seedlings I'm currently letting harden off, but they need water really badly. So I'm going to water those right after I'm done with this, and then put the lid on and take them inside. I'm super excited about this. I got these in a seed exchange like 4 years ago. It's strawberry popping corn. So I'm really excited that that came up. And I'm excited that this whole tray is stuff that's at least 4-year-old seeds. Most of them are 6. So the fact that any of them has come up is like super exciting. Let's see, we had a strawberry plant we had carried around with us forever, and we had used all of the babies and like made lots of strawberry plants when we lived in the apartment, but it finally outlived its time. So we got a new strawberry plant. I had this pot of chives has been in the same pot for like 5 years, and it had gotten big. So I actually cut it in half and put half out front in my herb medicinal flower garden. And it looks a whole lot better and is now blooming. Some lettuce, because I couldn't resist picking up lettuce a couple weeks ago. This is figgy pudding. Figgy pudding came from my best friend's mom's house in New York in a yogurt cup on a plane. And we put him in the ground, and he did terrible. So now he is in a pot, and he looks so much happier. Last year he got a little sad because with a new baby, the garden was sort of the least of my worries. But this year I'm hoping he will do better. We've top dressed it with a little bit of extra stuff, and I want to get him so he's happy, and then I'm going to transplant him into a really big pot and hopefully leave him there for a very long time. Let's see. I was super excited because these came up. I had these in here last year and they came up again. The African daisy was just pretty when I was buying the lettuce plants, and I bought that. This is Million Bells. I'm pretty sure that somebody gave me last year, and it came back. I'm happy about that. The sedum, the mums, all of this came back, which again, I'm really happy that it came back. I think this may have an ant's nest in it, so I've got to dump it out and see if I can repot it, but there's a lot of ants in there. And then I have a thing for lawn gnomes, if you'll notice eventually, but so that is my veggie garden lawn gnome. I like him because he was a gift from a friend who, they live in Alabama now, and apparently they have a lawn gnome store, which I'm super jealous of. This was my herb garden. I planted this 2 years ago. And, you know, herbs don't mind if the soil's really crappy, which is good because our yard, like if you dig up under the grass, everything is sand with a little clay mixed in. So I have thyme, which is blooming and going to town, and I've left it for the bees because I'm trying really hard to make sure that we attract bees to the yard, which it seems to be working because there's a bee on there. There were 2 big clumps of it. I moved 1 clump out front since I had 2 of them. My bay plant, look at this thing. When I got it, it was about that high. And I'm super excited that it's doing so well, and I'm afraid to touch it. It needs trimmed. I got 1 dead spot in it. There's 1 dead branch on the back side that needs trimmed off. But I actually went and looked up how to prune it because it will eventually need pruned, but right now it's doing so well I don't want to touch it. The fennel, I actually planted, I don't like fennel. I planted it for the butterflies, for the caterpillars to eat, and of course none of them ate it, so it's overwintered, and there's like a bazillion bulbs of fennel that I could pick anytime. So if my husband decides that he wants to try fennel, it's there. These daffodils actually, when we moved into the house, you know, whoever had lived here before, this was just bare. There was nothing back here. There was no garden or anything. These daffodils came up in the yard, and I finally told my husband to quit mowing over them because I wanted to see if that's what they actually were. It's been 4 years, and they have finally had enough leaves and built up enough in the bulbs till they bloomed this year, which I was super excited about. And I don't care if they stay. They can live in the herb garden and come up and bloom in the spring. That's fine. I have 1 little tiny branch of sage. I gotta go trim all the dead stuff off, but I'm kind of impressed that it made it. It was a pretty mild winter. I planted 4 o'clocks and something else. Oh, 4 o'clocks and zinnias in that little hole right there. I actually dug out, you can see all the sand that I dug out. And then I put some potting soil down in there just to give them a little bit of something while they're still growing. I have Italian oregano, which is doing fantastic. My rosemary, I have been through, I can't tell you, 6 or 7 rosemary plants since we moved into this house, and I keep putting them different places in pots in the ground, and they keep dying. But this one has decided it likes its spot and it's happy. I am not touching it other than to, you know, use the rosemary, but like we're not transplanting that thing. It's staying because it looks fantastic and it's happy, and I'm very okay with that. It actually bloomed last week, so I'm good with that. There's one behind it too that's not as happy, but it's happy-ish, so we're gonna leave that one for now too. And then there's sweet marjoram there in the middle, which again, it's happy. I'm leaving it. It looks really nice, so we're going to leave those there. And if I have 2 herb gardens, I'm okay with that because we actually will go through and cut everything and dry it and then save all the herbs. The problem is that like we have so much oregano from the last couple years that like if I'm going to dry it this year, we need to start giving it away to friends. My husband is laughing at me from inside. I can hear him through the screen. Oh, I thought it was you. And then I have oregano in that pot and mojito mint. Well, they're not pots, they're raised beds, but the beds are starting to deteriorate, so I'm going to have to move those somewhere. But that's mojito mint, which I thought I killed twice, and as we all know, you can't kill mint. You can try, but it just don't work. There's oregano with mint coming up in the middle of it, and then there's mint that's moved down. We're actually going to tear this deck off. It's got a couple rotten boards. It's not in very good shape, and we're just going to put a patio in. This deck, the stairs are still in existence underneath. This deck, I don't think they put the stairs in, they just put the deck on, so there's nothing there. So when we don't go in and out this door anyway most of the time, but we'll have to put some stairs and then put a patio in. And then I have these pots. We have one of those collapsible tents that we bolt to the deck on this side so that we have some shade. But last year we had some storms that came through and tore the canopy. So we just have the frame, and in trying to look for the canopy, maybe you guys have had this problem. In trying to look for the canopy, we can't find a canopy that's not the same price almost as the actual whole thing in existence. So since the canopy itself is almost as much as just buying a new one, we may just buy a new one, and I'm going to put some kind of wire on the top and basically turn it into a giant living canopy, and I'm going to put all of these around. So I've got pumpkins, I gotta remember, pumpkins, loofahs, melons, and these, I have to write it down. They're Prescott Ford Blanc melon seeds that came up. I've had those seeds for a while. I buy seeds because they're pretty and they sound good, and then I don't always have room for them. So I'm trying to use up things that I've had for so long that I was afraid they wouldn't work, it wouldn't come up anymore. These are bushel gourds, and those are Tennessee spinning gourds. They're about this big, and they should be really fun. I think Asher will have fun with them, and my mom teaches kindergarten, so I can always give her a whole bunch. And the loofahs, you can eat them, but we usually save them and actually use them for, sponges. These are growing in our yard, and we're pretty sure they're wild leeks, but we're not positive, so we're actually letting these grow with the intention. My husband moved one into one of the raised beds. We're gonna let them grow with the intention of when one of them blooms, we're gonna try and pull it out with the bloom and the root, and then send in a picture to like the local home extension and see if we can get a positive identification. Because if they're wild leeks, then we'll put them in a bed and we'll raise them and we'll eat them. But if there's something we can't eat, then we'll get rid of them. Let's see. Over here there's a rhubarb bed back there next to the shed, which has done pretty well, all things considered. And then I have 2 kiwis on this arbor, and this one looks great. This one is not so happy, but it's getting there. We had a tornado come through 2 years ago right after we planted these, and it knocked the whole arbor over and sort of half uprooted those. So the fact that they've come back at all is kind of impressive. And then we have the grapevines. These are from cuttings from my husband's parents' house, and they've done really well. I actually need to spray these because the last 2 years we've had bugs on them, and from what I read, from what we had, we need to spray them now and continue to spray them. But it's supposed to rain later today, so I'm going to try and do that tomorrow, because there's no point in spraying them if it's just going to get washed off. This little bed was a potato experiment that failed. We had 2x2s that came up about 5 feet, and then you were supposed to put your potatoes in, and when they grew 12 inches, then you added a plank and covered it up and then just kept doing it. It totally didn't work, and it wasn't worth the effort. So instead, it's now my son's garden. Even though he was too little to care last year, and he probably doesn't really care this year. That will be his. The Dusty Millers have taken over because I put flowers in it last year. We're going to tear most of those out and then put other things in it in a little bit. And then, let's see. These are gray zucchini. I'm going to try staking them this year. I found something about basically training them vertically. We're going to try that this year. So we have gray zucchini here, and those 2 right there are dark zucchini. One is, I can't remember right off the top of my head, but one is supposed to be less susceptible to squash bugs. I always have problems with squash bugs, and we put them in these containers. This one is going to stay here probably. These 2 I put in pots so that basically I could move them farther away from each other and maybe keep it from everybody getting squash bugs. We'll see. So I have spinach here. I put some 4 o'clocks in this bed just because I could. And then all of the little tiny seedlings are a bunch of leaf lettuce packets I had that were old, and I just dumped it all and figured if they grow, great, and if not, it was leaf lettuce and corn salad and mesclun mix. So I just put it all in. We'll see what comes up and we'll eat it, and then when it starts to bolt or I have something else to put in, we'll put something else in. I have my asparagus. This is the 2nd year they've been in, and we had like 4 stalks that we were able to eat, so I'm excited. I chose not to take anything else off of them because I really want them to do well, so I'm leaving these. I tried to stake them because they're falling over because we've had a lot of wind the last couple days. Let's see, all 3 buckets are 5-gallon bucket of potatoes. I have hunted all over creation, and I did wait too long, and it was my own fault. This whole quarantine thing and being a new stay-at-home mom, I have a hard time keeping track of what day it is and all that stuff. So I did not order my seeds and things when I should have. So by the time I got around to it, COVID had happened, and everybody apparently wanted seeds and seed potatoes. So in the end, we're using potatoes from the cabinet that it started to sprout. You know what? It works. In here, I've got 3 rows of peas, and there are some melon seeds of some kind, melon squash of some kind that I threw in there that didn't grow, but now it looks like maybe one of them's coming up. Not sure. These are Dilla table melons, and they were, again, really old seeds, which is why they're in giant clumps, because I really didn't think that they would come up as well as they did. Like, I think almost all of the seeds sprouted, and I didn't expect them to, so consequently there's big clumps. But I left them like that because then if some of them die, it won't hurt anything, because there'll be extras. This is my new compost bin I got. It was like 35 bucks. It comes as a flat sheet, and then you can make it whatever size you want, and it's got a 3-foot diameter at its biggest. It's a little smaller than that right now, but I'm excited because I put it here. We have a tumbling composter way back there next to the we have 2 dwarf apple trees we got last year, but the tumbling composter is in between them, but it's not very big. I cook a lot. I mean, I cook most of our meals at home. We have a lot of table scraps, so it was too much for that. And we have a bad habit of just yanking things out of the garden and then throwing it in the grass to be composted when he mows the lawn. So I figured this way, if I put this right here, we have no excuse for not putting the plants into the composter. Here we've got one blueberry that something keeps mowing off, but I'm hoping this year I'd really like to make this whole thing another raised bed with these in the bed. Because we're eventually, like, all of this cardboard is here because we are putting cardboard down and then putting mulch down in between these to alleviate some of the weeds and to just not have to mow over here. So we've got blueberry, a raspberry cane. We did not get thornless. So, you know, we put a cage around it to keep it from being out in the yard when he's mowing so it doesn't get damaged, and so that you don't accidentally grab it to move it out of the way and then get a thorn in your fingers. And then the other blueberry bushes down there. This bed is our tomatoes. There's 2 cherry tomato plants and a grape tomato plant, and I believe the one in the middle is actually a compact tomato plant. I don't normally grow those. The place I normally buy tomatoes from, we couldn't get to because of all of the coronavirus stuff. Because it's actually in Virginia Beach, near my parents' house, and we always buy our tomatoes and peppers there, but we can't get there this year. So we just went to Home Depot and bought what we could find, because I bought tomatoes and 1 pepper plant. The pepper plant I'm pretty sure I killed because it got really cold the other night and I forgot to come out and cover it. I had some pepper seeds, so we're going to be okay because the Jimmy Nardellos are sprouting, as are the Tabasco peppers. So we'll have a few pepper plants regardless, which is good. These are Egyptian walking onions. I actually got them. These are these 3, and then the 3 other clumps that are out front all came from 1 clump that my mom gave me like 2 years ago. And they decided they're happy. So we're going to leave them there. That little tiny bit, I moved it over there. I don't know if it's going to make it. I put some zinnias in here. This is bee balm, which I always leave for the bees. And the goldfinches always like to eat the seed pods when they're done. So that whole end is all bee balm, which I'm good with. Again, we're trying to attract the bees. This bed is 4 rows of carrots, and I think it's Danvers carrots and Nance, but I'm not sure. Those are turnips. Again, really old seeds. I did not expect all of them to come up, and they did, so I got to go through and thin those really well. 2 rows of radishes. One's French breakfast and one's regular. I think French breakfast is the farthest one, and these are the regular ones. I need to thin those a little bit, but they're not nearly as bad as the turnips. And then over here, we have cucumbers, pickling cucumbers. Because we don't really eat a lot of cucumbers, except I will make pickles till the cows come home and eat like jars. It's a winter squash. Candy roasters. They're candy roasters. There we go. And then that is the poor sad little pepper plant that is so not going to make it. Yeah, it got bit real hard. But we're just gonna let him. He's got 1 good leaf down there, so we're gonna leave him covered. Even though I don't think he's going to make it. It's supposed to get really cold for the next 2 nights and then be alright. So we'll leave him covered and see what happens. That is our passion flower. It will come up in the box, and then it will also come up everywhere in the yard. Because if you put one of those in and it's happy, it goes everywhere. But we let it train, and it basically covers the whole patio. We never get any of the actual passion fruit because we have a squirrel that likes to go by and take 1 bite out of it and decide it's not ripe and then throw it away. That squirrel and I are not friends. And then, like I said, these two are the dark zucchini, and then that has forget-me-nots and love in a mist, or made in a mist, but it's the same thing. Seeds that were sent, like one is a really cool postcard seed packet, and one was from the supermarket. My best friend, they're stationed in Germany, and she sent those, so those are in their own pot. And then there's some more of them over. Alright, so this is the front of the house, and this is the flower bed that we are getting rid of, because this is pretty much what it looks like no matter how much effort you put into it. And that's with landscaping plastic and 6 inches of mulch put down last year. I mean, it just doesn't like anything except grass. So it's going to be grass. The few things that are in there I'm going to pull out, and we're going to move. But this is my herb slash edible slash medicinal slash flower garden. My parents actually are the best people ever, and today is Easter, and they can't see the grandbaby, which is killing them, but they drove an hour and a half without us knowing, and at 6 o'clock this morning left Easter eggs for him in the grass, which apparently my mother sat up last night and wiped everything down with Clorox. And then they wore masks and gloves the whole day, the whole time, and until they left, to put Easter eggs in the yard and leave us a basket of stuff on the front porch for him. And they also left me a geranium, which I put in my fancy pot, because my parents are awesome. And then I have my Godzilla eating lawn gnome, my light up chicken, and I like I said, I enjoy my lawn gnomes very much. So we have these, I moved the dianthus. I have Greek oregano, that's an Egyptian onion. We have parsley, flat leaf parsley, there's lavender, I think that's lantana I rescued a couple years ago. That's the other tuft of thyme, some chives. I planted salad burnet seeds and they came up, so that is salad burnet. That is love in a mist, 4 o'clocks, Mexican tarragon, which I have not grown before, so we're going to see how that goes. It's supposed to be drought tolerant. It's not looking very happy right now, but like I said, this is really crappy soil. So I've tried to put some stuff in it to make it better. We'll see how it goes. Even herbs need a little bit of love. This soil doesn't have much in there. The other clump of Egyptian onions, I'm leaving a little pathway there. Lemon balm, more salad burnet, more chives, English thyme. That actually is going to be moved, so ignore that. There's sage, another rosemary. We'll see if it likes it up there. There's an amaryllis behind my little gargoyle. There's a divot there because I pulled out an azalea that has seen better days, which, even though it looked like it was going to die any minute, I drug it over to the edge behind the car over there, and it's dug it a hole just in case it decided to live, and it's trying to decide if it wants to make it. Egyptian onions, there's Ducat dill right there, some 4 o'clocks. That is calendula. And then there's a couple chunks of ice plant and some cone flowers, which do not look good now that I've moved them. So we will see. We'll see what happens. I got all of these irises that all need split, and I think I'm just going to split them and spread them out back here. And the 2 hostas are going to leave and go in the backyard somewhere. But it's not doing too bad. So far, so good. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, like, all of the buttons, and I will see you next time.